Hello and welcome to Business Line. This year's budget comes with a range of new policies and reforms that could impact everything from taxes to public services. But instead of just analyzing it ourselves, today we'll be answering questions that have been sent in by the public. Joining me is Lokeshwari SK, data editor from Business Line. Together, we'll dive into your questions and break down the key points from the budget. The first question we have today here is from Anup Seth. He asks if you can explain how under the new tax regime, an income of 12 lakhs can be considered as tax-free, especially when the tax begins to apply from an income of 4 lakhs and onwards.
Hi Anup, I think this is one of the questions that most people have uppermost on their minds after the budget. So first of all, you have to understand that the exemption up to 12 lakh has been given under a rebate under section 87A. So how a rebate works is the underlying income is subject to tax. But what the government says is up to a certain level, the tax you don't have to pay. So that is a rebate. The rebate was actually 25,000 till before the budget. So I'd like to explain it with some numbers, it will become more clear to people. So if you see, there is no tax on income between 0 to 4 lakh as of now. From 4 to 8 lakh, you pay tax at the rate of 5%. So that comes to 20,000. From 8 to 12 lakh, you have to pay tax at the rate of 10%, which comes to 40,000. So 20,000 plus 40,000 is 60,000. So up to 12 lakh, 60,000 can tax, which you don't have to pay. So income up to 12 lakh is exempt from tax. One thing is that they have to be under the new tax regime. If they're going to be under the old tax regime, they do not get this exemption. Number two, income which are subject to other kind of taxes such as capital gains tax will not be included in your income. And number three is that you have to file your return. You can't say that I'm exempt from tax up to 12 lakh, I'll not file return. No, that's not on. They have to file the return. They have to show their income and say that they're claiming the rebate under section 87A and show a zero tax return. So these are the three caveats they have to keep into mind.
Okay. That seems like a relief for most of the public earning less than 12 lakhs.
Yeah, that's true.
Not straying away from the topic, Nandini asks, what are the options for saving on income tax if income falls within the 15 lakh to 20 lakh slab?
Actually, under the new tax regime, you do not have too many deductions. They're all under the old tax regime. But there are two deductions that she can still claim. One is the standard deduction. That's about 75,000. Everyone gets that. No questions asked. The second thing is NPS contribution made by the employer. There is some deduction that they can claim. That's about 14% of their basic pay. But these are the only two deductions that you can get under the new tax regime. But then I don't understand why Nandini is concerned about saving her tax, because there's been so much of relief given by the finance minister by adjusting the tax slabs. Okay. So for this, we should look at how the tax slabs were before the budget and how they have changed now. Okay. So to give you instance, in the old slab before the budget, the 20% rate began at 12 lakh. Now the 20% rate begins only at 16 lakh. So from 12 to 16 lakh, there's some kind of a relief. And more important, income above 15 lakh was charged at 30% before. From 30% tax rate kicked in from 15 lakh itself. But now the 30% tax rate starts only after 24 lakhs. So there's a big relief for that 9 lakh tax slab. So from 12 lakh to 24 lakh, people are getting whole lot of relief. The tax rate comes down quite significantly. So if Nandini had seen our budget day edition of Business Line, we had this very beautiful table that showed across various income slabs what are the reliefs. So those who earn up to 16 lakh, they're getting 52,000 relief. They have to pay that much less tax. And those who are paying, those who earn 20 lakh, their tax is going down by about 93,600. So Nandini has quite a lot to look forward to this year.
The next question we have is from Ashok Mansukani, and he asks, while direct taxes have been reduced for the middle class, potentially boosting consumer spending, there has been no mention of rationalizing GST administration or rates. Will the government continue to place the blame on the GST Council, or can we expect a review and rationalization of GST in the future?
Mr. Mansukhani, you're right that the GST rates are very complicated and very difficult to understand. It's making all our lives difficult. But unfortunately, GST does not come under the purview of the central government alone. So it's outside the budget because the GST rates, etc., are decided by the GST Council. Because the GST system was designed in a cooperative federalism spirit. What that means is GST Council has ministers from all the states, finance ministers of all the states. They sit there with the finance minister and then they decide the GST rates. Okay, so just the finance minister or the central government alone cannot decide on anything. So the GST Council has to do it, and it's really not the purview of the central government or the budget to take it up. There's been a group of ministers, a committee that's been formed to look at the GST rate rationalization. Hopefully very soon they'll come out with their recommendations. But there is actually a pushback from the states themselves also. Because if they're going to reduce the GST rates, their revenue is going to go down. So there's a lot of pushback from the states, not just the center, to reduce the GST rates. So hopefully when the rate rationalization committee comes out with their recommendations, we hope that even the states agree to it and we do see some simpler GST rates going forward.
So according to the budget, the old tax regime seems less beneficial compared to the new one. Is that correct? And this was also a question from B. Kannan.
Yeah, that's something that all the people in the old tax regime, they're really not happy because they're saying that all the relief is going to the new tax regime. And you're right, Mr. Kannan, that all the old tax regime is not very good anymore. Again, I go back to the budget edition of Business Line. My colleague Arun had done a very beautiful table where he had compared the tax benefits under the old tax regime and the new tax regime. So even if someone claimed all the deductions for the home loans and ATC and NPS and insurance under the old tax regime, even then he's paying higher tax under the old tax regime than the new tax regime, up to 20 lakh. We did for 3 tax slabs. So the government has really done a very good job of making the new tax regime much better, much more superior than the old tax regime. But we have to understand one thing here, that the new tax regime is actually very good, because it's simpler. And the other thing is, it does not make you go for these tax saving instruments such as a ULIP or this PPF, etc., that people were investing just to get their tax benefit. At the end of the day, the people have to take the investment decisions themselves based on the returns that they get. Someone may want to do, they may want to invest in cryptos for all they matter. Why should they go and put their money in PPF? No, so it's not good for the government to be micromanaging the investment decisions of the people. Yeah, the government does save some revenue by not giving these incentives. But I think we as a nation have evolved enough to not to look for a nudge from the government to put money in the retirement saving and so on.
True. Yeah. And Deepak Juneja asks, which are the sectors that have benefited the most out of this union budget?
I think the obvious answer is the consumption-oriented sectors, because there's 1 lakh crore bonanza that has come to the people. So many are saying that many may go and they may go buy air conditions, for instance, or they may buy some washing machines. A consumer durable sector, that's going to benefit. Many people we spoke to, they said they'll go on a holiday, that 1 lakh, 90,000, 50,000. So all these tourism-oriented stocks, hotel stocks, they may benefit. Some people may go and buy two-wheelers or auto. They may take a EMI. So the banks may benefit. Auto stocks may benefit. But then again, we have to understand that companies and stocks, there are so many influences on any one company at one point of time. It's just not the budget alone. For instance, what Donald Trump is doing out there, increasing tariffs, that's having a much more bigger impact on the stocks as of now. They're all crashing left, right and center. So yeah, the budget does have an impact. Keep that at the back of your mind, but that's not the only factor that you should be looking at. So look at the long term and how the stocks are going to do over the long term. Look at the valuation and please then take the decision.
This is an interesting question from Chinna Babu, and he asks, some people believe to get the full exemption, one's income must be below 12.75 lakh. If the income exceeds this threshold, even by 1 rupee, the tax liability becomes significantly higher. Why does this happen?
Yeah, he is right. Mr. Chinnababu is right. That's because the rebate under Section 87A is applicable only if your income is below 12 lakh. So it goes even a little bit, a rupee or so higher, then the whole rebate goes out of question and all your income is taxed under the various tax slabs. But having said that, the income tax authorities are giving you something called a marginal relief. So what that does is from 12 lakh to 12 lakh 70,000, they are giving you a relief so that you don't pay a lot of money back, the tax doesn't jump immediately. So the marginal relief, if we see, if suppose you have to pay 12 lakh 10,000 is your income, your tax liability will go to 61,500. But under the marginal relief, you have to pay only 10,000. So what the government is trying to do is they're trying to make sure that you have the 12 lakh of your income you have in your hand. So the 61,500, 51,500 is a marginal relief for you. So that only the 10,000 is a tax and 12 lakh you have in your hand. Similarly, 12 lakh 20,000, even though the tax could be much higher, 70,000 or whatever, they'll make sure that you have 12 lakh in your hand. So up to 12 lakh 70,000, the government will ensure that you have that relief. So marginal relief is being given to people.
The last question we have is from Chakri. What is your take on social welfare allocation, including Manrega?
Social welfare allocations, yeah, it's been a mixed bag. Some have got more, some have got less. Manrega got about 80,000 crore this year, which is same as last year. Other schemes such as PM Kisan and PM Garib Kalyan Yojana, their also allocation was flat. Some schemes such as PM Awas Yojana, Jal Jeevan Mission and all, they saw some increase in their allocation. But then what we have to understand is during the pandemic, when the budget itself expanded a lot, at that time there was a huge jump in allocations across the board, right from Manrega to Garib Kalyan Yojana to everything. So the government is not cutting back on any allocation as of now. They're maintaining it at those elevated levels. So they're trying to do what best they can because there's a compulsion to go on the path of fiscal consolidation. We have to maintain the fiscal deficit to bring it down to 4.4%, which they have done now. And also the debt is getting very big. So though there's not too much of room to really spend on social welfare, but what they're doing is they're trying to maintain it at a higher level. So that I think is good. And hopefully going forward, if our revenue improves because of these tax slab tax changes, hopefully if people pay more money, if the revenue comes, then maybe there'll be more spending on social welfare also.
Thank you, ma'am. That was extremely informative.
Thanks, Abhita.
That's all for today. Stay tuned for more such videos like this.